Hi, I'm Natalie from NAMASTE Farms, and a couple of my Ravelry people asked me to go over tail spinning again, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so first of all, don't use roving. Do not use roving for your base yarn because you need something that's going to stick really well, and roving, the fibers are pretty short and it can break easily. So, I mean, you can if you want. I'm just telling you, in my opinion, don't do that. I've said it before, you want to use the waste that comes from splitting your locks, because not everything is going to make it as a lock, and use that extra that's all fluffed up. It's really, really fluffy, like this kind of stuff. You want to use this kind of stuff as your base yarn. I spin my base yarn as I'm putting my locks in, and I do that because I'm going to split my base. I'm going to split my base and stick my lock in it. And then I'm going to use the end of my lock to sort of, I call it, it's so confusing because I say my lock locking it down, but that's what it does. It kind of locks it down and locks it in place. And then I spin more. It's much easier to spin them not very close together. So I'm going to recommend that if you're having trouble doing this, don't spin these locks close together. Leave yourself a lot of room. And you also have to spin very close to the orifice because you're going to overspin your yarn for sure. You also want to make sure that this part's fairly thin because you're going to be putting a lot of revolutions because as you're treadling, right? So definitely don't make this thick, and don't work back here. You want to work close to the orifice, right? So here we go. You want to make sure that this is kind of, I don't comb, I don't use hand carder flickers or whatever. I just rip it apart and kind of mess it up a little bit, because I don't want it to be smooth and pretty and nice. I want it to want to grab onto what I'm doing. So I'm just going to stick this in here. I'm going to take this end. This is part of this lock. It's the top part of this lock, right? Sorry, let me split this a little bit more. You want to make these locks kind of small. You don't want a big bump. And now I'm going to make it part of my base yarn. I'm making it part of my base. And I want this to hurry up and go in the orifice because, like I said, you don't want to add too much twist. You are going to have, there's a lot of twist right here, and it's putting tension on my hand, and I want that because when I split this open and I stick my next lock in, and I let go, the twist is going to travel down, and it's going to immediately grab hold of this lock. Okay, see here, this is that excess part I talked about. I leave like an inch or more because I want to lock it down. Okay, now I'm going to let the twist kind of travel. I'm going to put this down here and let's just go ahead and let it go. See? And it already grabbed hold of this lock, and look. I mean, I'm pulling really hard and you can't get it out. So now I'm just going to make a few revolutions there, and now I've got a lot, I can feel the tension. There's a lot of tension built up in my hand, and that's really good. I want that, like I said, because I want it to grab on this lock right away. This is a very painstaking process. That's why this yarn is not inexpensive. As I'm sure some of you have read on my threads, that a friend of mine, Brenda, she was buying some from a lady, and the lady didn't live in this country, and the lady finally stopped making it because even though everyone was buying it, it was so incredibly labor intensive it wasn't worth it to her anymore. Okay, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to lock it down, and I'm going to let the twist travel. And then I'm just going to do a few revolutions there. Okay, now I'm running out of base yarn, which is okay. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add another there. And see, and I'm going to open it. I really want this to go into my and you know, they get hung up. They get hung up on these. You got to make sure that it actually gets onto your bobbin. Okay, so let's grab another one. And you should have your locks all lined up nicely on your lap, not like what I'm doing. But this is like the ADD spinner here. Oh, here's one. I'll grab a nice one from over here. Okay, and I make sure that I put the shorn end in between, and like I said, this is really pushing on my hand. This twist really wants to travel, and that's good. I'm going to lock it down. I'm going to let the twist travel. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to give a few turns. Okay, and once again, once I feel this pushing on my hand, I know that there's enough tension, and then I can add my next lock. Okay, see, these are really long locks, which are awesome. And so they're going to get hung up on everything. Okay, so I'm going to split it open here. I'm going to grab another one. I'm going to rough it up a bit. I'm not going to be sweet to it at all. I'm going to reopen this. I'm going to set it in between. It's got so much tension right now, it's really wanting to twist to travel. Okay, this one is too thick. I know for sure. There we go. That was way too thick. It was going to make a huge bump, and it was going to make it impossible to have a nice base. So you just got to really fight with it. And see, that's good that it's sticking like this. That's what you want. You can't have a smooth, mohair is very hard to do this with because it really doesn't want to grab unless you're using that commercial spun lace weight. A lot of people use that commercial spun lace weight mohair as like a base yarn, but I don't do that. Mohair in my mind is slick, and I know that that lace weight stuff will grab for other things, but I just prefer to keep the integrity of this as with Wensleydale. Okay, this one. Okay, got to get more of a base yarn. It's very hard. This is definitely an advanced spinning technique. Okay, there. Oops, it's going to break if I'm not careful. Might be able to see that twist really wants to travel, but I've got a really big thin spot right there, which really isn't that big of a deal because I can just add on to it right there, and because this fleece is so long, it acts like a thread. Okay. Yeah, so that's what you do if you run into what I just did. Instead of like having to completely stop and like take that lock off, I just added another long lock and ran it vertically. So here we go. I'm going to grab another one, and like I said, it's best to just have them lined up on your knee, but I have to do everything the hard way. I'm going to open them up. I'm going to stick my lock in between. There's a lot of tension on my hands. I said that's good. I have like this inch or more. I'm going to bring it down between my fingers, flip this over the top, and I'm going to let the twists go a little bit. There we go. Of course, I told you to work close to the orifice, and I end up back in my lap, but I've been doing this for a long time, so. You know, it's like anything. You learn the rules, and then you can really branch out. Once you know the rules, you can figure out how to break the rules, but you got to know the rules first. Okay, so let me grab another one. And then you just do this, and honestly, it takes forever to get a decent-sized skein of yarn. You know, I haven't even done a foot yet, not even 1 foot. So, you know, your skein sizes are usually not very, very long for the obvious reason. See, this one I ended up not catching it I didn't catch that top piece, but let's see if we can fix that. Okay, so, okay, that one's in good. Okay, this one, when I put it in, I actually only got some of the outside fibers right here. See? And I don't think that's really that big of a deal because I can bring this up. Just lock out of the way. I can bring this up, and sort of like I've got a lot of twist there, but it's sort of like I did before. Let me take it, pull it, and if I grab one of these pieces, one of these other locks, let's try and let it grab. Try and get it to grab, and then I can just bring it like I'm plying on the outside of this one, and bring it down. See if I fixed it. Yeah, there. Now I fixed that one. And to be honest with you, I mean, I do have tension in my hands, but when it's all said and done and I take this off of the bobbin and I dye it, it won't be overspun. It'll end up hanging beautifully, and I'll show you some finished ones that actually I just did, I think last week. But here's one. And the locks look all beautiful and nice and not all messy because what I do is I don't dye before I make my tailspin. I dye after I make my tailspin. And then I make sure that after I dye it and I wash it, because everybody knows after I dye I always put it in extremely hot water and use Dawn. After I do that, I'll make sure all the dye that is loose comes out. I'll hang it, and when I hang it outside to dry, I hang it so that all these locks are falling straight down because I don't want them to be all crumply and wrinkled like in here. They're all messed up because they were just washed and like laid out to dry as part of the fleece, and so the integrity of them isn't perfect. But you can make all of them perfect again by hanging it properly and going through each individual lock and pulling it down and separating it. And that's what I do. And further, to be honest with you, if I was going to sell this, I might even steam it. I might take an iron and just steam steam these ones, not so that the curls are out, but so if it was like this, that it would hang naturally, because I want it to hang like it was on the animal, right? So I want all of the lock formation to be beautiful and have integrity and continuity. And so here's a blue one. And I think, I don't even like blue, to be honest with you. I'm probably one of the only people in the United States that doesn't like blue, or probably in the world, but I don't care for blue, but I have to admit, this is pretty amazing. So anyway, if you have any questions, certainly I could try and show you again. You know my email, it's littly@mac.com. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'd love to answer them. I really would, and I honestly don't mind making videos to clear up any problems people have. Thank you so much. Happy spinning, happy knitting.